Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, fellow dregs to society. Welcome, all you rock dwellers. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. It's not what I call you. That's what the members of the Democrat Party call you. I'm Rick Drader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And joining me today as my co-host is the patriot from the battle-born state, the silver state of Nevada, and that is Sharron Engel. Sharron, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos.
Thank you. It's great to be back, too, Rick. You know, I always like looking in the news before we go on the air because I want to see just what the news is reporting and also compare to what we report. And it seems like we get so much more in depth here as far as getting the newsmakers on that really understand the topics that they're talking about in a deep way. You know, they're the experts. Some reporters are not exactly the experts, and we get the articles as they come from the experts. So I'm always happy to make that comparison. And of course, the news isn't great. It's always the bad news that kind of pricks your ears up. Here in Nevada, we just passed the popular vote, getting rid of the Electoral College. It's amazing that we don't understand what the founders put into place in the Constitution with the Electoral College, how much that protects small states like Nevada. So it's just beyond me when a small state like Nevada would give up their right to vote for a president, because what happens is our electoral votes then go to the popular vote winner, and the popular vote winner can come all out of the big states, California, New York. Those guys, if they have more votes than we do, that's the popular vote. All of a sudden, every one of our electoral votes goes to whoever California and New York decide should be president, not who Nevada decides should be president. Right now, we have an equal voice based on our electoral votes. And this way, it just throws everything into the pot, and we get a democracy is what we get, not a democratic republic, which is what the founders wanted us to have, which is a representative republic, which means that every one of us has some representation when it comes to voting. But in a true democracy, it's just the majority rules and the minority has no voice, and it becomes, I guess, a plague on the minority, because if you don't have a voice and the majority is ruling, you then lose your rights just because there just aren't enough of you to fight for them. It's a sad commentary.
Very sad commentary. And like you say, the people of Nevada are giving up their right to vote to the people of California, the people in New York. And so who is going to be electing our president, Sharron? Well, by and large, I believe it's going to be illegal voters, because illegal voters will offset that balance, will throw that balance off. And in places like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, places like California, Oregon, Washington. So you're going to have the megatropolis areas on each coast to actually decide who our president is, and in many cases, a lot of those votes will be fraudulent votes. I'd like to see some court cases, Sharron. I want to see conservatives and Republicans start to use the courts just like the liberals have, just like the Democrats have. I think this is unconstitutional. I would like to see this brought up to the Supreme Court, and I would like that you and I, we're both on the same page as far as voting rights, as far as voter fraud. I would like to see the Supreme Court do something about illegal voters, illegal votes. So, you know, it's a slippery slope, Sharron. Got to ask America, how are you going to like it? You are going to have no say whatsoever who the next president or who the president of the United States is. The Electoral College was a design of our founding fathers. So all states have representation, and all states have a say on who our presidents are.
Well, in this national popular vote, it's a reaction to the Trump victory. Nobody even considered this really until after President Trump was elected. Now that he's elected, this is just another one of those anti-Trump moves. It's a way once more to defeat Trump in 2020. They were trying to get this pushed through legislatures before the 2020 election. And so far they have 189 electoral votes, which is 35.1% of the Electoral College. There is legislation pending for 116 more electoral votes. And then there are 233 electoral votes where those states are saying, not here, not now, not ever. The threshold is 270. So they have to make this 189 equal to 270, which means they need 80 more electoral votes in order to make it the law of the land. And as you say, the closer it comes to that law of the land, the more we have to be considering what we're going to do as far as defending our Constitution and saying, wait a second, this needs to be a constitutional amendment and it has to go to through the amendment process. I know that they're thinking that way when they get all these votes in these states. They're hoping that they'll have enough to convince that it came from the states, and all they have to have now is an act of Congress, and it will be a done deal. But I'm hoping that those 233 electoral votes are in many, many states, because it takes 3/5 of the states to ratify a new constitutional amendment. And so we may not be mighty in population, but perhaps we're mighty in numbers as far as the number of states that are withholding themselves from this movement.
Once again, I have to say, where's the Republican Party? Why is the Republican Party silent on this? Why are there no challenges? You know, to me, I think that there should be lawsuit challenges. Take this to court. Let's determine once and for all, is this constitutional or not? And I think that's up to the Republican Party, because they're the ones that are going to be hurt. All right? There will never be another Republican elected president. Between all this illegal immigration and also these illegal immigrants voting. My gosh. You know,
well,
Sharron,
I know.
Sharron, one other thing. Hate to say this, hate to even bring this up, but I could see another division of the states happening. Okay? Just like slavery and states' rights was an issue that divided the country in the 1860s, I can see this possibly as dividing the country once again. So let's hope it doesn't come to that, but it could.
Well, you know, we've had guests on that have talked about this very thing, that you're not the only one that's thinking, wait a second, how much can we take before our country really divides again and along sharp lines like it did in the 1860s. I don't know what that threshold is, but honestly, Rick, you're right. The liberal left is pushing so hard on their agenda, and the rest of the country is saying, wait a second, we can't go down that road with you. And especially where they are turning towards socialism. And this popular vote is more toward that socialism. Remember,
yes,
Hitler was elected. Hitler was elected. In a democracy, he was elected. And that's what the majority vote gets for you, is things that you don't really want. So We're watching it happen in Venezuela. Those are elections happening there. Putin has an election. It's not that socialists don't have elections. They just determine the winner. They just, it's as the old saw says, it's not who votes, it's who counts those votes.
And that came from Joseph Stalin. Hey, Sharron, we do have to take a break, and you mentioned our guest. We have great guests here. We've got 3 more joining us today. Also, some very interesting topics of conversation. After this break, we'll get into that. But for right now, you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Today's show, like all our shows, is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Sharron and I will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharron Angle. And for rebroadcast of our shows, please check out our website, CCRShow.com. That's CCRShow.com. You'll find our radio broadcast, our TV broadcast there, a lot of great articles and a lot of terrific information. By the way, don't look for Conservative Commandos Radio Show.com on Facebook, because Facebook has permanently banned our website or any links to our website, saying that it violates community standards. Very interesting. Well, Sharron, we got 3 great guests joining us once again.
Yes, we do. Our first guest is Curtis Houck, who currently serves as the managing editor of Newsbusters after almost 2 years as a news analyst in the Media Research Center's News Analysis Division. His work has been featured on various Fox News Channel programs: Breitbart, The Daily Caller, Drudge Report, Fox Nation, Mark Levin Show, Mediate, Red State, and The Rush Limbaugh Show, to just name a few. We've asked Curtis to come on and talk to us about an issue. Jeff Daniels, MSNBC panel, lose their minds bashing Trump supporters fearing for America. This has to do with not just rewriting history. Now they're into rewriting classics, books that you and I read when we were going through high school. Classical literature. To Kill a Mockingbird is the one that we're going to be discussing today. So it will be great to have Curtis on, and we'll once more expose this liberal agenda and how they can't tell the truth, so they alter the truth.
They twist it, and they're taking this classic, To Kill a Mockingbird. And we'll get into this with Curtis Houck when we have him on. But I could see that this is going to be happening time and time again, that they will take classics, they'll twist them and turn them to favor liberalism in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, it's a very interesting take, I guess, that we're going to get on this. Our second guest is Ben Leiberman, who is a senior fellow who specializes in environmental policy at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Ben Leiberman also served 7 years as a senior counsel on the U.S. House Committee on Energy and Commerce. Ben has published hundreds of op-eds and articles, including in the New York Post, Chicago Sun-Times, the Washington Post, Weekly Standard, National Review, and he's appeared on a number of radio and television stations and programs. He has also testified before Congress on a number of energy and environmental issues, and we've asked Curtis to talk to us a little bit about
Trump can save, Trump can save your air conditioner from the deep state.
That's right. Here it is, right here.
Sharron, I don't know how many times you have saved me, so.
You saved me. Well, this is so fascinating to me that we're even discussing this again. We're coming up on Memorial Day, and we're going to have to discuss the summer climate.
Yep.
We've been kind of complaining about winter, but summer is coming, and with it brings its own little issues. And of course, your air conditioner becomes your best friend sometimes.
Sharron, the other day, Mary and I were walking on the boardwalk in Ocean City, New Jersey. And we went into one of our favorite shops. It's a dollar store in the boardwalk. And there was a lady there. Remember those paper fans?
Yes.
Remember those paper fans? And she was waving one. She said to her husband, "Wow, you don't see these anymore." And I said to her, "That's because when it gets hot, everybody runs for their air conditioning. People don't use those paper fans anymore to cool themselves off. You see them at concerts and whatever. And no. Everything's indoors. Everything is air conditioned. We've really become an air conditioning society here, at least here in the United States and the Western world. And Ben Leiberman is going to be talking about that and the cost, how government regulations has added to the cost of air conditioners and also the refrigerant that makes them work.
Well, our last guest is Joe Duggan, who is the head of C-Suite Strategic Council, an international business and public affairs consultancy. He serves as on the editorial board of the Richmond Times-Dispatch in the Reagan State Department on staffs of the ambassadors Jeane Kirkpatrick and Edwin Rowney, and as the White House speechwriter for President George H.W. Bush from 2009 to 2015. He worked in Saudi Arabia as a speechwriter for the CEO of Aramco. He is also the author of the book Khashoggi, Dynastics and Double Standards. And we've asked him to come on and talk about the terror attacks on Saudi oil operations in the Gulf. We've not talked too much about these attacks, and now, there's the rumblings of Iran, but we haven't really talked about Saudi Arabia too much. So it'll be great to have Joe on to really discuss what's going on there.
Yeah, as we can recall, last week there was a couple of ships, oil tankers, going through the Straits of Hormuz. So we haven't talked about that much here on the Conservative Commandos, and I thought it'd be a great time if we could discuss this. Sharron, Memorial Day weekend is coming up.
That's right.
And I will invite all our friends, all our viewers and listeners out there, not to forget the meaning for the holiday. This is Memorial Day. This is a day to remember men and women who have sacrificed their lives in the defense and freedom of our country. I can remember, for me, when I was 8 years old, being in the Cub Scouts, participating in a Memorial Day holiday parade in Egg Harbor City, New Jersey. And also during that day, we also visited the grave of a Civil War soldier in Batstow, New Jersey. Also during my Cub Scout time, we visited Gettysburg. And I don't have to explain what Gettysburg is to anybody out there. But for me, that was the start of my patriotism, I do believe. It also started my interest in history, wanting to know more about what Memorial Day was and what it really represented. So I encourage everyone out there, have a good time. Enjoy your hot dogs, your hamburgers, your parties, your picnics, your family get-together. But don't forget what the real true meaning of Memorial Day is. Think about the men and women who, as I said, sacrificed their lives to ensure our freedoms that we have today.
That's right. And in our family, I know we go and decorate graves, not just of the ones that served in the military, but everybody. And so I think that's where we may lose some of the historical reference for Memorial Day, is because we've kind of given it over to remembering everyone that's gone before, rather than
Sharron,
focusing on the military veterans.
Where I think we've given it up, given it up to parties and celebrations and visiting the mall and going to the movies and going to the beach. It's become a holiday, a true holiday. It's a 3-day weekend, and I just want our people to really, our people, our listeners, our viewers out there, don't forget and talk to your friends and your relatives and your neighbors about the true meaning of Memorial Day. It wasn't to celebrate the beach or hot dogs or hamburgers or baseball games or apple pies. It was set aside as a day of remembrance of the people who fought and died for our country.
And it's a little different from Veterans Day. We have that one at the end of the summer. And as you say, they've all just become holidays. When they made the holiday fall on a Monday, always on a Monday or a Friday, so we could have that 3-day weekend, it was, hurrah, we're going to be off, and off we went, vacationing, rather than, as you said, remembering and paying tribute and really doing honor to those who have fought and preserved our freedoms here in this country.
Okay. Well, Sharron, we're going to take a break. And after the break, we're going to have Curtis Houck. He's the managing editor of Newsbusters. And we're going to be discussing an article he wrote about an interview that took place on MSNBC. Jeff Daniels, the actor, is performing on Broadway on the play, in the play To Kill a Mockingbird. He's playing Atticus Finch, the principal of it. And it's amazing how during this interview, They use this opportunity to bash Donald Trump and to bash Donald Trump supporters. Unbelievable.
Why not?
Why not? But this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Drader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We will be right back.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Drader. And once again, for rebroadcasts of our shows, the best place is to go to our website, CCRShow.com. That's CCRShow.com. We have rebroadcasts of our radio show, our TV show there, a lot of great articles, a lot of terrific information. But don't look for us on Facebook. Since our website has been banned from Facebook, you've got to go directly to it. Sharron, our next guest is with us. Please make him feel welcome.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to introduce Curtis Houck, who currently serves as the managing editor of Newsbusters after almost 2 years as a news analyst in the Media Research Center's News Analysis Division. His work has been featured on various Fox News Channel programs, Breitbart, The Daily Caller, Drudge Report, Fox Nation, Mark Levin, Mediate Red State, Rush Limbaugh Town Hall. You're everywhere, Curtis. Curtis, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
No problem.
We wanted to talk to you, Curtis, about an article that you wrote. Issue, Daniels, MSNBC panel lose their minds bashing Trump supporters, fearing for America. I was reading through this. It sounds like they're trying to change a classic. You know, in high school, I had to read. It was required reading, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yep, same here.
And now it looks like they're changing the classic. What do you think? Is that what they have in mind?
You're right. I mean, it's such a classic story. I mean, it's one of those required reading things that all of us, you know, despite our gaps in age between all of us here, we all have had to read it. And it's just, it is a timeless classic about fairness, actual fairness and racism, and standing up for what's right. But yet, it's on Broadway, and you have Aaron Sorkin, who was behind The Newsroom and many other liberal projects, teaming with Jeff Daniels to play Atticus Finch, and he joined Deadline White House, which is really just an anti-Republican group therapy session that happens here on MSNBC Monday afternoon, and it was just really ridiculous. It began with Nicole Wall saying it's a stunning reminder that our hearts can be moved and minds opened by a simple story about one man doing the right thing and conducting himself as though all our children are watching. She said it's as important now as when it was written, and is important during this moment of turmoil. Now, I didn't know. I don't know about you guys, but I was not under the impression that we're living in a time of turmoil. But nonetheless, Jeff Daniels goes out and basically says that he becomes Atticus to, quote, pin the ears back of basically white America and give them a wake-up call, and suggest that, that there are droves of people out there, i.e. people who, I'm not just going to say, I'm going to go beyond his point about, Trump voters, but I'm just going to say people who do not support Hillary Clinton or the far left are beyond redemption, beyond decency, do not have a sense of compassion or love, brotherly and romantic, all forms of love for their fellow man. Well, and I think that's a real shame here to say that large segments of the American population are irredeemable.
Well, they've made it really political, which was really surprising to me, because this wasn't about politics. As you say, the story To Kill a Mockingbird was not about your politics. It was about humanity. And here we have this. Do you see any Atticus Finches on the political landscape? Wow. I mean, he's made now, Atticus Finch is somebody who should run for president, because he's playing this character in a whole different way than the book I read.
Yeah, exactly. He's making him out to be, and he says this in this MSNBC interview, out to be a little bit of a racist. Again, this notion that white people are beyond compassion and redemption and understanding for struggles that people who don't look like them go through. And I think that's really a shame, because the whole point of the story was this racist, this town in the Jim Crow era was ready to basically have this, African-American young man killed on trumped-up charges, kind of like what we saw in real life with Emmett Till. Mm-hmm. And he was the person who stood up and said, this isn't right. He was not one of the few people in the town who wasn't going to be in the KKK. And he stood up to defend this person, even though he was an accomplished attorney. He was doing something that was very unpopular. It's very, it is timeless. Listeners here probably have read it themselves, and they know how the story goes. So then to make these subtle changes to make him seem more like he too has some problems as well, that he's this white knight or something, and that he views himself as kind of like he's doing this as a favor to the African American community, as opposed to standing up for what's right. I don't know how else to put that other than just to say that it is just it's just such a shame to take a timeless story about truth and decency and rebutting racism and making it this, very not as overt or explicit, it's implicit that this is an affront to Donald Trump and his supporters, comparing Trump supporters to Jim Crow KKK members in the South who are obviously Democrats.
Well, and that was interesting to me how Jeff Daniels plays Atticus Finch as having an epiphany, changing from a racist to a more kind-hearted and broad-thinking man. That was not in the story at all. It was never about Atticus Finch being a racist, and it was
being woke, becoming woke. Yeah, there was nothing like Yeah.
Yeah, and but I thought it was interesting that Daniel says, well, I'm watching for intelligence. If politics, more than I, is an 180-degree swing. I think that's part of the 8 years of Obama. Let's go for the whitest guy we can. I think there's an element out there in the middle of the country. The other thing, what was the question? This guy, he starts out, I'm looking for intelligence, ends up with, what'd you ask me? It's like this is an amazing interview in itself. I wanted you to comment on that, on the guys that he thinks are so intelligent here.
Right, exactly. And he holds himself off as a Michigander, being from Michigan and claiming to live in Michigan. But he spent over 6 months now living in New York, doing 8 shows a week. As Atticus Finch, and being somehow disappointed in his fellow men and women, and he suggests that democracy is at stake if Donald Trump is reelected. We're doing okay. We're 3 years into this thing, and we're still here. I'm still talking to you. Everything is fine. And talking about being disappointed in his fellow man, and he said basically, other than taxes, this is about racism. People right of center about race, and you're like, you're the one. I was gonna say you're accusing us on the right of being obsessed with race, when I think it's folks like Jeff Daniels who have that problem, who are obsessed with race, and making this a race issue. So then the Hellman gets back on track. He says, well, so who are you watching for president? So now we're really going to get to it. The Atticus Finch, who is this person? Well, it's Kamala Harris, or he likes Joe Biden. I'm really surprised that he didn't mention Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the midst of all of these intelligent folks that he's thinking about for president. Again, your guess is as good as mine why he didn't mention her, but I think other than maybe he was just looking at declared candidates, but, in terms of people he's watching for 2020, but it's just so ridiculous.
It is. Well, we need to go to a break, Curtis. We want you to stay through that break. We are talking with Curtis Houck about an article that he wrote, Daniel's MSNBC panel lose their minds bashing Trump supporters and fearing for America. Rick Trader and I will be right back after these brief messages, but we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet and TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. Now you can watch our TV show on the AUN TV network in Northern California. We'll be right back.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Department, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why? Well, why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud. The claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder in Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Long Beach, California, and now in Arlington, Virginia, Washington, D.C. Our guest this segment is Curtis Houck. He's the managing editor of newsbusters.com, and we're discussing an article that Curtis wrote. Daniel's MSNBC panel lose their minds bashing Trump supporters, fearing for America. Curtis, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Sure.
Well, Curtis, the crux of this conversation is Jeff Daniels, the actor, is appearing on Broadway in a timeless classic, To Kill a Mockingbird. You and Sharron, you read the book. I waited for them to make it into a movie. I remember seeing it. Gregory Peck played the character there, Atticus Finch. But it's interesting how the left is using every tool that they can, including now taking a classic and twisting it to revise history, to revise the meaning, to separate America. Am I thinking too outside the box, Curtis, when I say that?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, it's a story that's not really about left or right. It's a story about right versus wrong, and an innocent man in the Jim Crow era facing charges that he should not be brought up on, and about a man in Atticus Finch who was willing to go against the grain of his community and realize this actual injustice that was going on. And regardless of the blowback that he took, he defended Mr. Robinson in court, and it was just it's such a, I mean, it is a timeless story. You think of, I mean, it's a story that was required reading for a lot of us, so you may take a little tinge off of that, but when you look at it or get some time away after you've read it in schooling, it matters, and it's a story that doesn't I mean, I don't think really needs updating at all. I mean, you don't need to make it woke. It's pretty. It stands on its own, and that's why it's still read. When Sharron was in school, many years ago, and when I was in high school in the early 2000s, or
when I
high
watched
school,
it
middle school.
and when I watched on Turner Classic Movies.
Right.
Curtis, in your article, you're right. When asked why he took the role, Daniels replied that he becomes Atticus to, quote, pin the ears back, basically white America, by giving them a wake-up call that argues proportions of humanity are beyond compassion and decency with the play's setting in Jim Crow era town. Curtis, let's talk about Jim Crow. Who created the Jim Crow laws?
Well,
it was the Democrat Party.
Right.
The Democrat Party was responsible for the Jim Crow laws. And Nicole Wallace, she then replied by comparing Trump supporters to a fictional town filled with KKK members. Once again, who created the KKK? That was the Democrat Party. So if they want to use, what I'm getting at, Curtis and Sharron, if they want to use To Kill a Mockingbird to do anything, they should use it as a history lesson of what the Democrat Party created, the KKK and Jim Crow laws. Again, Curtis, am I getting out of bounds here?
Well, if you want to talk about the KKK, you should be talking about Senator Robert Byrd, and mentors of figures such as Bill Clinton or Al Gore, still major figures in the American left. But again, it's a story that there's no need to make it woke. The facts stand for themselves. About, while fictional, this was meant to, Harper Lee, was a child of, I believe, Mississippi or Alabama, so the Deep South. She grew up with these horrible situations, and that Americans saw on the news, in the 60s and the 50s of people having, Bull Connor. We think about, the fire hoses being turned on, civil rights protesters trying to do peacefully protesting for what really was a near endless string of injustices being held, where there really were two Americas that the left loves to talk about there being today. There legitimately were all these generations ago, and it is To Kill a Mockingbird, while fictional, was really held up a mirror to what was going on in large parts of the country. Ensure that, yes, that the people who were doing that were a part of one political party. So, their claims just don't really hold up when it comes to these comparisons between, the people of what was going, the characters, the fictional town, and To Kill a Mockingbird that made a mockery of the justice system, and what was that? They made a mockery of just everything. It was a damning portrait of a part of America that, it's safe to say a lot of people weren't proud of, but to then extrapolate that onto Trump supporters today, it's just ridiculous. It's something ridiculous. It's again with these Hitler comparisons. We're talking about the Holocaust that Rashida Tlaib and Omar make. Just don't. Seriously, you can't, you want to be pro free speech and just say you should be able to say what you want, but you're like, if people could just stop comparing things to the Holocaust, or stop invoking Hitler, comparing Donald Trump to Hitler.
Or how about stop dividing people?
Right, exactly. That's the whole bigger point.
By saying, David Jolly, which was a former Republican.
He lost to Charlie Crist, I should add.
I'm sorry?
He lost to Charlie Crist, I should add, who was a turncoat. So, yeah.
And he got into this, and Jolly said, first of all, you're right about the mob. I attended one Trump rally for professional reasons, and a couple of your points resonate. 10,000 people in the arena, less than 5 people of color. I'm sure he went all through that that arena of 10,000 people and hand counted those 5, right? And Curtis, what this, in my belief, achieves is one thing, and that's to divide us. I don't think this conversation that they had about this classic play, or the fact that they're revising this classic play, does anything but to divide people, rehash bad memories, and by and large, those bad memories were created by the left, were created by the Democrat Party. I wanted to talk with you about MSNBC ratings. You guys at Newsbusters, you do a great job in following these networks. Who watches this network anymore?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it is the network for the left, I should say, Rick. But I think that there are certain MSNBC shows that definitely fetch ratings. But I will say that if you want to talk about who's struggling in the ratings department, it's CNN. Just looking at yesterday's ratings, for example, Rick, you take every single cable news show from 6 a.m. to midnight. And you have to so all told, that leaves about 51 shows, okay? 51, 52 shows. To get to the highest rated CNN show, out of 52 shows, you have to go for yesterday. You don't get their highest rated show until you get to number 31. So every single Fox News show, all but 4 MSNBC programs, were higher rated than CNN's highest rated show. 896,000 people. Absolutely incredible, and because people know what's the deal is with CNN. So unfortunately, MSNBC, to be blunt, is doing all right. They had 3 shows in the top 10 yesterday, with their crazy liberal, hosts Lawrence O'Donnell, Rachel Maddow, and Chris Hayes. But beyond that, you look at what CNN's doing, claiming to be objective, and once you get to 36, every single show from 37 to the bottom on yesterday was CNN. Just absolutely remarkable how really the airport TVs must really be holding up CNN's ratings at this point, or the fact that we at the MRC record CNN, so that must give them an extra boost because we record them. But I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about ratings, I mean, yeah, MSNBC is, a lot of their shows are beat by Fox News on a consistent basis, but CNN is the real one. If you want to talk about ratings, that's in trouble. As you point out, people might have seen the Pete Buttigieg town hall, drew double on Fox News, drew double one that he did on CNN.
Well, Curtis, it is a shame because I can remember the first Gulf War. CNN was the only network that was broadcasting from Baghdad, and they were like the little mouse that roared. It's not a good sight watching a great racehorse go lame, is it? And that
right, or an athlete, or like a football player or basketball player who just is a shell of themselves. Yeah.
Right. Curtis Houck, Media Research Center, Newsbusters. We want to thank you. It's great to talk with you as usual, Curtis. Please tell our audience how they could follow your work, read what you write, and also find out more about Newsbusters.
Newsbusters.org, newsbusters.org. We've got content day and night. We have a set of interns starting this week, so we have even more content populating the site at Newsbusters for everyone to check out. And we're at Newsbusters on Twitter and at the MRC on Twitter.
And it's always interesting, if not entertaining, the things you guys discuss. Love it, exactly. Love it. Curtis Houck, again, thank you for joining us. Take care. God bless.
All right. Take care, Rick.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. Well, Memorial Day weekend is coming. So's the heat and humidity. People are going to be cranking up their air conditioners. I hope they work, because if they have to have them fixed or go out and buy a new one, they're going to be shocked by what the repair costs are going to be like. thanks to government regulations. And on the other side, we're going to be speaking with Ben Leiberman. He's a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, talking about keeping cool this summer might set you back a bit. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to or watch us on the AUN television network in Northern California, such places as like San Jose, Stockton, San Francisco, San Jose. And with that, Sharron Angle, we do have our next guest with us. Please say hello and welcome him to the show.
Well, it is an honor to introduce Ben Leiberman, who is a senior fellow who specializes in environmental policy at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Ben Leiberman also served 7 years as a senior counsel on the U.S. House Committee on Energy and Commerce. He has published hundreds of op-eds and articles, including those in the New York Post, Chicago Sun-Times, Washington Post, Weekly Standard, and National Review, and he's appeared on a number of radio and television programs on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, Bloomberg, and CNBC. He has also testified before Congress on a number of energy and environmental issues. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Ben.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure, Ben. We really wanted to talk to you about, can Trump save your air conditioner from the deep state? The deep state is getting into everything, or has gotten into everything. It seems like we turn around and they're putting more regulations on our lives. And now it seems to be air conditioners. Talk to us a little bit about what they're doing with our air conditioning. We've become pretty air condition dependent these days.
Well, yeah, air conditioners have been a target of federal bureaucrats for quite a few decades now. Never mind that they do all these regulations from air-conditioned buildings, but they don't seem to mind making air conditioning more expensive for the rest of us. And now that we're into springtime and people are turning on their air conditioners, in some cases for the first time since last summer, they're crossing their fingers. They're hoping that it turns on. If it doesn't turn on, you might need a repair costing hundreds of dollars, or a replacement, which can easily run into the thousands, even $10,000 or more. Now, not all of these higher costs are due to regulations, but regulations have certainly added to the high cost of staying cool.
Well, you talk about a little bit about this was President Clinton and President Obama that really got started on air conditioners. You know, as many older people are really dependent on air conditioners for survival. It's not just a climate control or a luxury for some citizens. They really actually need the coolness in order to be able to survive the summer.
Oh, absolutely. The health benefits of air conditioning have been well documented. It used to be that July and August were the deadliest 2 months of the year for senior citizens before air conditioning, not since now we have air conditioning and most people can afford it, and we need to keep it affordable. And as you mentioned, Clinton ironically had energy efficiency standards that actually cost money. You would think that an efficiency standard would save you money on your energy bills. The problem is that the Clinton bureaucracy went so far. They set standards so stringent that it ended up costing more to buy the air conditioner than you would ever earn back in the form of energy savings. So it ended up being a real big cost. And then we got more of the same from the Obama administration. And in fact, the Obama administration stopped even taking consumer concerns into account, and also regulated based on the climate benefits, or the claimed climate benefits from more efficient air conditioners. So he wasn't even putting consumers first, and we ended up with regulations that ended up costing more than they saved.
Well, this should be a real wake-up call for senior citizens, I would think, who need that air conditioning, that they're voting for the wrong party. Hello. It seems like, the guys that say, oh, we love you, are really regulating them right out of existence.
Oh, absolutely. People on fixed incomes need affordable air conditioning. These higher prices, they're really dangerous. That they start to price some people out of being able to own and operate an air conditioner.
Well, one of the things you say in your article is that the best refrigerant for cooling homes is HCFC-22, which was, tell us what happened to that.
Well, that was one of the refrigerants that was blamed on the ozone hole, which was the big scare before global warming back in the 70s and 80s. And as a result, this refrigerant, which is really the best refrigerant for home air conditioners, nothing that's replaced it has ever is as good. But that refrigerant stopped being produced for new equipment starting in 2010, and it can't be produced at all at the end of this year. And prices have gone through the roof. So just the cost of filling up the refrigerant in a system where some of it has leaked could easily be into the hundreds of dollars, where this used to be a nominal charge.
So it makes you wonder, because they have this eco-friendly refrigerant. Who produces that, and how much did they give to the Democrat Party? I don't know if you know those facts, but it certainly begs the question, when you have something that's good and you come along and outlaw it because of something that you think is going on. I mean, really, do we have any scientific proof that HCFC-22 is hard on the environment?
It's probably not nearly as bad as was as was claimed. And you're absolutely right. There were chemical companies that made the substitutes, which cost more money. And now the funny thing is the substitutes are under the gun for being greenhouse gases. And there's efforts to ban those as well. So we went from X to Y. Now we're going to Z, our third choice of refrigerants. And surprise, surprise, companies have patented these substitutes, which sell for even more than the other refrigerants. So there's this process where once the old refrigerants become affordable, someone comes along, finds something wrong with them, finds an excuse to restrict them, and then these companies they patent more expensive alternatives. So it's a big money maker. You see, unfortunately, corporations siding with environmental groups and becoming a very powerful lobbying force for more expensive air conditioning.
Well, and it always comes down to that, doesn't it? Follow the money, follow the money. So if you want to know who's tampering with your lifestyle, you just follow the money and figure out who's got a friend or a brother-in-law working in that deep state, and voila. There's your culprit. So you say that Trump can save this. How can he save us, and is it even on his radar?
I don't know if it's on his radar. It ought to be, because when you think of all the buildings he owns more air conditioning himself than all the previous presidents combined by a wide margin. So he might know more about this than he's let on, but he hasn't said much about this. But what he could do is hold the line against any future regulations that would drive up the cost further. Like I mentioned, the substitute refrigerants out there right now, they're under the gun as being greenhouse gases, and there are those who'd like to get rid of those. Well, he could stop that if he wanted to. He could also stop these efficiency standards that end up costing more than they save. So just by not adding more regulations, we could at least catch our breath and not see these increasing costs in the years ahead.
So this doesn't take an act of Congress. Our president can do this all by himself. Is this one of those things where the executive branch is in charge of the deep state, and maybe you should do a little housekeeping?
There are things that the president can do, but it's much better to have legislation, but that's just not realistic with a democratically controlled House of Representatives. But there definitely are things that he can do at EPA, at the Department of Energy, to at least hold the line on any further increases in costs. One of the things that the deep state would love to do is something called the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. This is a UN treaty provision, so I think that's probably all you need to know, that would internationally outlaw these refrigerants. He ought to stay out of that UN treaty. I think that would help a lot in the years ahead.
I think we should get out of the UN altogether, but that's just my feeling. We need to go to a short break.
No, it's not just your feeling, Sharron. It's mine and a whole lot of others. But sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, we need to go to a break anyway. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. You can now watch us on our TV show at the AUN TV Network in San Francisco, San Rafael, Marin, North Bay, San Jose, Silicon Valley, Santa Rosa, Wine Country, Redding, Chico, Sacramento, and soon to come in Carson City, Tahoe, and Reno, Nevada, Pelosi Country. That's all I've got to say. We'll be right back in just a few minutes with our guest, Ben Leiberman, who's talking about, can Trump save your air conditioner from the deep state? I'm Sharon Angle, joined by my co-host, Rick Trader.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Sharron Angle. Want to wish all of you a very best Memorial Day weekend. I hope you're staying cool, but after this conversation, maybe your temperature's going up a little bit. Our guest this segment is Ben Leiberman. He's a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and we're discussing an article that Ben wrote, Can Trump Save Your Air Conditioner from the Deep State? Ben, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time. Ben, in Sharon's introduction of you, she said that you have testified before Congress on a number of energy and environmental issues. Hey, Ben, did you ever see any of those politicians sweating because maybe they didn't have air conditioning?
No, it was always comfortable in those congressional hearing rooms. Nice and cool, comfort control.
And you know what, Ben? These regulations on air conditioners, they always seem to affect everybody else but the people that start these regulations. It almost seems like politics today. In society today, there's two classes: the political class and everybody else. And the political class, they impose these regulations. They never live by them, like Al Gore flies around the world in private jets, as personal limousines, whatever. I understand he has a big mansion and his lights are always on. Ben, am I wrong that, when I say that the politicians want everybody else to live by the regulations, but they don't seem to?
Well, the only thing I don't like about air conditioning is that it made Washington, D.C. more comfortable in the summer. So all those bureaucrats and members of Congress can work all year long. That's the only downside I can see. But yeah, the added costs, they hurt those at the fringes of society most. If you're a well-paid bureaucrat or politician, you might be able to afford more expensive air conditioning anyway. But if you're a low-income person, and for example, Obama regulations really raised the cost of window unit air conditioners, and that bothered me a lot because window units are the most affordable option, and that's the option you see in a lot of low-income households. So there really isn't a lot of concern about the impact on people of possibly taking away their air conditioning. The obsession is with the environmental impacts of air conditioning.
Ben, let's see, today is 2019. About 19 years ago, I bought a little window air conditioning unit for a bedroom at my mother's house. I paid about $100 for it, $109 for it at the local Walmart. Could you tell 5,000 BTU unit? Could you tell me what that air conditioner might cost today, and how much of that cost is because of these government regulations?
It's really hard to say. For one thing, air conditioners would have gone down in price over time if not for these regulations. That usually happens with products that have been on the market for a while. So even if the price is somewhat the same, adjusted for inflation, that doesn't take into account the fact that there may have been a price increase. Now, it's hard to say. Obviously, there's a lot of different kind of window units, but I've seen Department of Energy data that shows they have gone up by a few $100s over that span. That may not be a lot for some people, but it is a lot of money for others. Also, the cost of repairs, that also has gone up. So it's not just the cost of the equipment, it's also the cost of repairs.
Well, you talk about in your article about repairing, it's not just the cost of the refrigerants and the repairs, but the added measures the service people must adhere to when working on an air conditioning unit. Could you talk about that? What the repairman must do?
Because these refrigerants are deemed hazardous to the environment, the repairmen are required to make sure that none of them escape during servicing, and that requires reclamation equipment, which costs a lot of money, and it also adds the time of repair. So that can add $100 or more to a repair as well.
Whoa. CF22, and you and Sharron were talking about it. One time it was very, very inexpensive. I know you could go to like the Pet Boy and get a small can of it to charge your own car at the time. It's probably like $3-4. CF22 was banned because it was depleting our ozone layer. Ben Leiberman, was this one of these? Oh, well, like saccharin at one time caused cancer. There was we got to get rid of saccharin because it caused cancer. And then years later, they come out and said, no, never mind. It really didn't cause cancer. But CF22, was it really as bad as the politicians and the environmentalists wanted you to believe?
No. And in fact, it wasn't even included originally because it was a very weak ozone depleter. Other chemicals were the main culprits. And in terms of the ozone depletion issue overall, what we do know is that none of the scary predictions ever came true. So either all these bureaucrats did a great job saving us from an environmental disaster, or that disaster was exaggerated in the first place. I think a lot of the latter, maybe only a little of the former.
Ben Leiberman, Competitive Enterprise Institute. I want to touch base on another article that you wrote that I think is very important to consumers. Another day, another blocked pipeline into New York. Ben Leiberman, could you tell us about that?
Well, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has pretty much declared war on all fossil fuels, including clean-burning natural gas. And even though New York, and including New York City, needs more natural gas, he's been blocking pipelines that could take natural gas into the city and the rest of the state. As you may also know, there is plenty of natural gas being produced in neighboring Pennsylvania in the Marcellus fields, the fracking gas. So there's a tremendous opportunity to move gas a relatively short distance to where it's very badly needed. But the state government in New York, which also banned fracking within the state, they could be producing their own gas, but they've also outlawed or blocked all these pipelines that would bring gas into the state. And as a matter of fact, Consolidated Edison, the big utility there, has had to put certain restrictions on new natural gas hookups, which should be absolutely unnecessary. We're swimming in natural gas in this country because of the fracking revolution, but we need pipelines to get it where it's needed. And as a result, a lot of consumers in New York are suffering. I know some of you may not have much sympathy for New Yorkers, but they're suffering with more expensive energy than is necessary.
Hey, Ben, you say it's very badly needed. How badly needed is it?
Well, the main utility there, Consolidated Edison, has actually stopped new natural gas hookups in some parts of their service area.
That's because of the shortage of natural gas?
The shortage of natural gas that can come into the state of New York. New York's now like an island of scarcity, surrounded by plenty.
I remember a few years ago there was a very cold winter, and New England was really suffering high prices because they couldn't get enough natural gas. Hey, Ben Leiberman, Competitive Enterprise Institute, we want to thank you for joining us here on Conservative Commando's radio show. Please tell our audience how they could follow your work, read your articles, and find out more about CEI.
Well, you can just check out our website at cei.org.
Ben Leiberman, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care. God bless. Ben, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend and keep cool if you can.
Thank you. You too.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Sharron Engel. And on the other side, we're going to be speaking with Joseph Duggan, and he's going to be talking about what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz. Terror attacks on Saudi oil company operations expose the folly of Rubio and Graham's morality. Don't go away. We will be right back.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
Elkins goes to vote for Merrick.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Hartman, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect.
How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why? Well, why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
Saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle. Yes, that's Sharron Angle. And yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcast, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. You can find rebroadcast of our TV show there, our radio show there, a lot of great articles, and a lot of terrific information. And Sharron, our next guest is with us. Please make him feel welcome.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege for me to introduce Joseph Duggan. Joe Duggan is the head of C-Suite Strategic Counsel and International Business and Public Affairs Consultancy. He served on the editorial board of the Richmond Times-Dispatch, in the Reagan State Department on the staffs of Ambassadors Jeane Kirkpatrick and Edward Browning, and as a White House speechwriter for Presidents George H.W. Bush. From 2009 to 2015, he worked in Saudi Arabia as a speechwriter for the CEO of Aramco. He is also the author of the book Khashoggi, Dynastics and Double Standards. Joe, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be on your show.
Well, thank you. It's our privilege to have you. And we want to talk to you about terror attacks on Saudi oil operations expose the folly of Rubio and Graham's moralism. We haven't heard too much about this, really. These tanker ships and the strategic pipeline of Aramco, the world's largest oil company, that suffered terrorist attacks last week. Talk to us a little bit about the attacks.
Well, it was in the news that first Sunday a week ago, I believe it was, there were attacks on bombings of four oil tankers, four vessels in the Arabian Gulf, just east of Saudi Arabia, between south of Iran, south of the strategic Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is where the Persian Gulf ends, and there's a narrow strait through which ships have to pass to go into what's called the Arabian Gulf, and from there, that opens up widely into the Indian Ocean. To give you an idea of the geography, and at that point, the ships are on very open seas in the Indian Ocean. It was in that space beyond, towards the more open side, following the Strait of Hormuz, where these terror attacks took place, and there were bombs that caused damage, putting out of service two huge Saudi Arabian oil tankers and two other vessels. One which was flagged to a European country and one which was flagged to the United Arab Emirates, as I recall. But for certain, two Saudi Arabian oil tankers were attacked and damaged. 1 or 2 days later, there was a drone strike against the east-west pipeline in Saudi Arabia at a location somewhere between Riyadh in the center of the country and the Red Sea coast of Saudi Arabia, where there's a refinery and where there are several refineries and petrochemical plants. The attacks were not devastating, but they didn't disrupt oil flow in any significant way, so it is said. But this is the fact that they happened and that they were deliberate, is a warning that bad things can happen there. And it's widely believed and accepted by people, including me, that probably Iran was somehow behind the attacks, if not directly. Proteges, clients of the Iranians did it. The Houthis in Yemen are at war with Saudi Arabia, and they are definitely clients of the Iranians. What this means for United States security is that it could escalate into a wider war, which maybe would get our military involved. I don't want that to happen. President Trump says that he does not want it to happen. But my concern, having lived in Saudi Arabia, being grateful for having had an opportunity to live there and work for their oil company, still I assert that I'm for United States interests, not Saudi interests, in as much as they might be different or opposed to ours. And I feel the same way about Israel, and I feel Iran is more. I feel the same way about Iran too, except that Iran is a declared adversary. The Saudis are declared friends, right? The Saudis do not. The Saudi regime does not want to become a democracy. They want to retain their autocratic monarchy. That really disturbs many Americans across the spectrum, and it's understandable. It's not. I'm not an advocate of making other regimes more like Saudi Arabia's, but the prudential question is: should our politicians be going about in a reckless way to try to undermine Saudi Arabia's regime when they are our allies, and when more or less, and a lot more than less, they're behaving in ways that are conducive to our security and to our economic interests? That's why I came to write this little book. It's from Encounter Books, which is a very distinguished publishing company. You may know it. Publishes very conservative books of a very high intellectual and editorial caliber. They have a series of books that are very slim called broadsides. They're almost like pamphlets. Mine is like 50 pages or so, a paperback. So it's a quick read. If you'll let me, I'll get to why did I write this just recently and arrange to get it published. It's because of what happened to Jamal Khashoggi and all the media sensation that went around his disappearance and then his murder. Khashoggi, what I like to tell people as far as my credentials go and why it's worth listening to what I have to say and worth reading what I have to write is that all sorts of people with a whole lot of power to cause mischief while being misinformed in Washington, D.C., they're all talking about Jamal Khashoggi, but I actually talked with Jamal Khashoggi. I lived in Saudi Arabia. I met him. I knew about him. I met him on just one occasion, but on that occasion, I had a very long talk with him. I was seated at a luncheon next to him at a public relations conference in Dubai, and we had a very interesting conversation with one another. And so I'm not the world's greatest expert about Jamal Khashoggi, but I know a lot more about him than so many people who are advocating very irresponsible actions in response to his murder. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not. I'm not cold-hearted or cold-blooded When I was on the receiving end, just like so many other people in the West, of the stories in the Washington Post and CNN and so on and so forth about his disappearance, and then about his rumored murder, and then about his confirmed murder, and then the horrible details that perhaps are true. I can't say they're not true, but they're also not proven to me, about how I was tortured and so on and so forth. Well, of course, I couldn't sleep at night. I agonized thinking about, he was a very charming man, and I had a nice conversation with him once upon a time. But the evil deed, the foul deed having been done, now what do we do? Characters like Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Marco Rubio, and thank God, former Senator Bob Corker and former Senator Jeff Flake responded in this poorly informed and exceedingly moralistic way, saying, oh, now the United States must punish the government of Saudi Arabia for having assassinated this man, and we must punish them severely. And Graham and Rubio, for example, also spoke out strongly in favor of having the ruler of Saudi Arabia being removed from office. Well, what does that get us? I mean, the man, we didn't choose him. But we don't choose rulers of Saudi Arabia, right? If we could choose somebody else, would we do any better? They all have to come out of the royal family. Otherwise, you have a total revolution and total chaos in that country. But I was astonished and disturbed that Republicans who claim a conservative mantle are so far off the deep end, some of them, in this very radical and naive neoconservative attitude about promote democracy everywhere and anywhere, even when the culture isn't conducive to the development or the sustaining of democracy, and also threaten regime change. If there's not enough enemies to threaten regime change, how about threaten regime change of our friends, right?
Right.
And it brought me back to the earliest days of my career. I was only in my 20s. I had been a newspaper writer as a real young guy in Richmond, Virginia. And when Reagan was elected, through very, very good fortune, I was introduced to Gene Kirkpatrick by one of my mentors, turned out to be one of Gene Kirkpatrick's closest friends, and introduced me to her. And I was a big fan of Ambassador Designate Kirkpatrick. And so I got in, even though I wasn't part of Kirkpatrick's most intimate group of advisors, and I was very young, I got a job on her staff, and I actually worked for her at the UN in New York, and then also later in her office in the State Department. And I've never forgotten, and I've always tried to be true to the lessons that I learned from working from this great thinker and this great leader and this great patriot. And what I say in my little book, it's called Khashoggi, Dynasties and Double Standards. My title is a deliberate reference to her famous essay, which was called Dictatorships and Double Standards. That was an essay that she wrote for Commentary magazine in the year 1979, representing a very strong break with the Carter administration. She was a Democrat. And,
hey, Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are coming up against a hard break. And we want to pick up this conversation on the other side. Here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, our guest is Joe Duggan. He is the author of the book Khashoggi Dynasties and the Double Standards. We're also talking about the terror attacks on the salty oil operations this past week or so. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be right back with our guest.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. Once again, for rebroadcast, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. Don't look for us on Facebook since Facebook has banned our website. But you can hear rebroadcasts of our shows, our radio show, our TV show at www.ccrshow.com. Very pleased to have Joe Duggan with us today. Joe Duggan is the head of C-Suite Strategic Council, and he's also worked in the Bush White House, and he's also worked with Ambassadors Jean Kilpatrick and Edward Roney. Joe, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time. Can you hold up your book, please? Khashoggi, yes. Dynasties and the Double Standard.
Yes, can you see it well?
Can see it very well. Thank you for that.
It's a very slender book. It only costs $4.05 on Amazon. It's also available as an ebook, at least from Barnes & Noble, and I think it will be from Amazon too as a Kindle book, and it's available now as a Nook book on Barnes & Noble. It's also available on other platforms, both electronic and as a slender paperback book. So it's 56 pages. It's called a broadside because Encounter Books has this series in order to have timely and short treatments of controversies.
Well, Joe, you're the man to write this book, as you said. You know, a lot of people have talked about Khashoggi, but you actually met him. You actually met him. You talked with him. What can you tell us about Khashoggi the man?
Well, I didn't know him well. I just had one conversation with him, but it was a long one, and I knew about him before I met him, and then I considered his life and career, particularly after he was murdered, and tried to make sense of what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
I can say this, that there's myths about him have been made. He's been mythologized into a martyr for freedom of the press, for human rights, for democracy. He was not really leading in that direction or in favor of that. Or if it were any kind of democracy, it would have been the sort of democracy that happened in Egypt for a little while when Mohammed Morsi was elected for the Muslim Brotherhood. It turns out that Khashoggi had sympathies with the Muslim Brotherhood, and which is radical and revolutionary, and which is opposed to the more conservative but authoritarian regimes of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and so forth. So,
Joe, and what I wanted to also talk with you about is this knee-jerk reaction coming from people like Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham. Their knee-jerk reaction to the murder of Khashoggi, and also this idea of regime change. I've never seen anywhere around the world where this idea of regime change has helped the United States, has actually been an asset to the United States. We can go back to the 1970s, the overthrow of the Shah of Iran. We can look what happened in even Libya with the death of Omar Gaddafi, and also we can add into, or I'll add into it, the overthrow of the government in Egypt a few years ago. Regime change doesn't seem to work, and now here we've got a partner, a true ally in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and all of a sudden there is this murder, tragic as it may be, as confusing as it may be, but you got people like Rubio and Lindsey Graham right away want to do things that are going to hurt one of our allies there.
Well, yeah, that's what I say too. I mean, it's within the realm of responsibility, I'd say, for U.S. senators to speak out against the horror of what and brutality of what was done to Khashoggi, but to react in such a way as to say we must slap huge sanctions against Saudi Arabian government. We must try somehow to militate for the removal from power of the ruler of Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince. It doesn't make any sense. It's unrealistic, and it damages our interests because, look, there's no democracies in that region, and there's no countries that have a human rights record that we would be proud to have over there. None of them. And some of them are strategically friendly and allied with us and have good economic relationships with us and are enemies of our enemies. And that's at a minimum, it's pragmatic. I'm not taking a moral or religious side in favor of the Sunni Arab Muslims against the Iranian Shia Muslims, but the fact is that the Iranian regime really is inimical to us. Mm-hmm. They call us the Great Satan. Well, the Saudis don't do that. The Kuwaitis don't do that. So again, and they're more ideological and more revolutionary too. It doesn't mean that I want war with Iran either. I definitely don't. I don't favor a war to bring about regime change in Iran, even though they are not friendly to us. But back to the fact that we have a confrontation with Iran now, which is dangerous, and it confronts our interests and the the neighboring countries and rivals of Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, for example. Well, how crazy is it to be threatening sanctions and wanting and calling in effect for regime change in Saudi Arabia when you're trying to prevent a war with Iran and prevent that war by being strong, being strong but not overly bellicose is what I would do. Well,
one thing we can't, one thing I don't like us to do, Joe, is to cut off our nose to spite our face.
Right.
That really concerns me. That I think that there's times when you got to say what is in the best interest of the United States, which is maybe an unpopular thing. It's unpopular for a lot of people to hear that, but my gosh, again, regime change doesn't work. Show me a place where it's worked. It hasn't. And also, when you talk about democracies in that area, like you say, there are none. There have been none. Israel, but okay, Israel is a recent creation. But when you talk about Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, here you have dynasties going back hundreds of years. They don't know what a democracy is. They would not know how to operate under a democracy. And the devil is the devil that they know.
It's true. And as much as I do prefer democracy as a system for people to live on, I want our democracy here in the United States to be a healthier democracy. It's not a healthy democracy now. And perversely, our own democracy is undermined by disinformation and propaganda regarding our strategic interests. If I can mention Israel again. Israel is a country that the overwhelming number of American citizens love Israel. They want to support it very strongly. You see this across the board in the Democratic Party. Has been long been very pro-Israeli. The Republican Party has become increasingly
I think we've got to switch there. The Democrat Party is becoming more anti-Israel.
Right.
The Republican Party becoming more pro-Israel. Hey, Joe, we got to go, but I wanted to give you the minute or so we have left. Again, hold up that book.
Oh, sure. Thanks. Yeah.
Tell our audience where they can get it and why they need to read
it.
Viewers
and listeners. Yeah, your viewers and listeners, I invite you to get a copy of this book. Discuss it with your friends if you have a book club or a political group that cares about foreign policy, and we all should. This is easy enough to read, but it presents a very harsh and strong challenge to some of the Republicans who are very influential. As we've talked about, Senator Rubio. I don't know the man. I don't. This is nothing personal. Before 2016, I thought I was all for Rubio, but he seems to have so much resentment against President Trump that he wants to go for far out foreign policy postures. Almost anything he can do to undermine what the president wants to do. Finally, back to Israel, you see that we're on the verge of some kind of announcement soon of a Middle East peace plan, meaning Israel and Palestinians. There's all sorts of signals from the Saudis. The Saudis are going to be on board with it. Well, again, let's assume that's true. It probably is. Why on earth do we want to cut off our nose to spite our face?
I totally agree.
Overly antagonistic to the Saudis when we're on the verge of maybe Saudi recognition of Israel. I mean, that's a game changer.
That would be huge. Hey, Joe, we got it.
Right.
Joe Duggan, I'm sorry. We could continue. Sometimes we get guests that we could make the whole show with. Unfortunately, we are coming up against a hard break. Joe Duggan, again, please hold up that book and remind our listeners how they can get it.
Rick and Sharron, it's delightful to get acquainted with you and to talk with you today.
Joe, would love to have you back. Seriously.
Sure, please do.
Love to have you back. Joe Duggan, thank you. Where can people get the book one more time?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online orders that way, direct from the publisher, which is called Encounter Books.
All right. Joe Duggan, we want to thank you so much for joining us here in Conservative Commandos. Take care and God bless.
Thanks a lot.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Don't go away. We will be back with more right after this break.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
Saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
Well, Sharron, that just about wraps it up for today's show. And like I said, I hope you and your family have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Again, I want to remind our audience, please do something patriotic this weekend. Please remember the men and women who sacrificed their lives so that we could be the United States of America. But have a great holiday. Enjoy your hot dogs, your hamburgers, your picnics, your fireworks, whatever you're going to do. But please, please remember the reason for Memorial Day. Sharron, we had a great show. Several great guests.
We did, and I'd like to thank those guests. First of all, we had Curtis Houck, who talked to us again about how the liberals are losing their minds, this time over To Kill a Mockingbird, if you can believe that. Our second guest that we had a great conversation with, and we're so grateful that he was on, is Ben Leiberman, who is a senior fellow and specializes at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. He talked to us about air conditioning, and maybe it's not going to be as easy to be air conditioned as it used to be. It might cost us more because of regulation. And finally, we're grateful to Joe Duggan, who talked to us about the terror attacks on Saudi oil operations and really the disinformation that's kind of surrounding that whole issue.
Yeah. Sharron, how can our listeners find out what you're up to when you're not here on Conservative Commandos?
Well, they can always go to SharonAngle.com, SharonAngle.com.
All right, but for now, we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on TV. And